Hello, innovators. I am Dustin Miller, PolyInnovator. Today we're talking with Doc Williams, founder of Brand Factory, content curator, and content repurposing extraordinaire. Thank you for joining me on the Polymath podcast.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is a show by PolyInnovator, so please say hello to the innovators in the audience.
Hey, good to meet everyone in the audience. It's great to be part of this. I'm excited to talk to all of you too.
And so one way I like to break the ice is to have you share something about yourself that no one knows about you.
Interesting. No one knows about me. This is a problem because I talk a lot.
Yeah.
And so I got to think about what haven't I...
Well, I know on another interview you mentioned that you started doing business when you were like 7 or 8. And
Yeah.
So that's a common knowledge trove. And so I was just curious to see what you're...
I gotta think about this. I'm looking around, I'm looking at my room and I'm like, is there something that I haven't... I don't know if a lot of people... Oh, man, I got to think about that because I just talk so much. I mean, a lot of times in business, a lot of people don't understand how much I was obsessed with comics as a child. Maybe that would be something. But yeah, so in my everyday life, people know, but most business minded, like to the point of I knew for a span of almost 20 years, depending on Uncanny X-Men, there's many different ones, Uncanny X-Men, X-Men, X Factor, whatever. But I could tell you the writer and artist for about 20-year stints.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe that. Yeah, maybe that's one of them.
That seems interesting too, but it's just one of those things where hobbies are a fascinating thing. Like I did spriting, which is like making Pokemon characters on the Game Boy kind of thing. And it's just like, no one really knows about that when they look at PolyInnovator. So I totally get how you have that nerdy side.
Yeah, exactly. I love that, man. Love to hear it.
So you have Brand Factory and Build With Me going on. What got you started before all of that? What was your mindset?
I don't know. I keep going back over the years and thinking about this. I'm obsessed. Although my wife would say, like, you just love building businesses and trying to make money. I guess on the surface, that's true. I love human behavior and watching how people react. And for the most part, when you're exchanging money and value, you're seeing what people value and seeing behavior. And I'm obsessed with that. I'm obsessed with seeing that. And also, I really enjoy making people honestly happy. So in all of my businesses, I've always loved teaching or allowing people to be at least having a time where they can be suspended, not in disbelief necessarily, but just happy. And yeah, so I think that's the through line of all the things that I do.
Seems like that's almost like just helping them get into the state of flow. Because if someone's happy with what they're doing, they're going to get into flow much more easily.
Exactly right. Yeah, I never really thought of it that way. But yeah, that's exactly right. Like even like DJing and dancing, I think when you're DJing, you see if people instantly like it or they hate it. And even when you build music sets, that's what I really view, and we'll get into later. I mean, but I honestly think DJing has helped me in business a lot more because it is very reactionary and it's live. So I live stream and that really doesn't make me nervous. Recorded things make me more nervous than live because live, whatever, things happen, things blow up, whatever. But I love being in chaos. Yeah. And I think that's just gone through everything that I do in life, I guess.
Well, I think a couple points to make here is that I'm going to be editing this, so if there's something we don't want in here, we can always edit it out. But on top of that, too, it's more of a conversational thing. So it's almost like it's live in a way. We're just kind of riffing off of each other. And it's interesting, too, because your DJ background is really interesting. I actually worked for a DJ for a time and was trying to learn how to be one and just, the set of the equipment and all that good stuff. And it is interesting when you're dealing with the crowd and seeing how they might react. Like, he made some of the decisions based off of, like, I went to a salsa club. That's where I met him. And so there's people wanting to dance the salsa music, and there's other people who are wanting to do more like reggaeton and like get up and close personal. And so he has to balance that out and find people's tastes.
Yeah, I love that. And that's the beauty of DJing, that people, they're honest, because if they hate what you're doing, they will stop dancing or they'll leave. So when you're infusing new music or increasing the beats per minute, the BPMs, you have to do it gradually for people to not even notice. So when you're mixing, when you're fading in, fading out to other types of music, I love when they hear a song that they didn't know that it was that song. It was a remix or something, like, oh, and you just hear the crowd. I love that feeling of getting people to be in that state. So I never really thought about it being in flow state, but It really does. It really, if you kill the mood, people will walk off the dance floor and you can instantly see it. And so, yeah.
Yeah, no, and I teach those fitness classes, I think when I mentioned to you the last time we talked, and it's like you can really control people's moods via the music. So I worked really hard at making a nice, strong playlist. And I really did much with the BPM, which I probably should have, but it was one of those things where I try to curate it as much as possible.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome, man.
Digging into some of these questions here, first and foremost, what is content repurposing in your words?
I think it's just like DJing. I think it's remixing. Remixing content that already exists, but you're putting your own personality and spin on it. And I mean, this might be a little bit too detailed, but I really think you're driving it with a purpose. So you're remixing it with a purpose. You're having a clear deliverable why you're repurposing content, either changing people's emotion or getting people to do something. That's what you can do with it. Yeah. And that's my definition.
Well, and don't be afraid to get kind of meta if you want to. If you want to get that kind of detailed, you can feel free to go do so. And the next question is actually related. Where do you see the future of content repurposing taking us?
I really believe with what's going on with COVID and what's going on in the world and technology changing so fast, there is going to be more people being able to be one-stop shops or creating the content, creating the brand that they want to by themselves, and they won't need an agency or an entire team to do it. I think repurposing and using different softwares like repurpose.io and others, you're going to be able to see people remixing their own life or their content the way they want to. And it's then going to allow people to be total brands in total control of their image and perspective wherever they want to show up on social media and online presence.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned repurpose.io. It's one of the few tools that I actually go out of my way to share my affiliate link for because I care that much about it. And you and I met through Hanny Mora, the CEO of the tool. And it's just interesting how with stuff like that and with automation tools such as Buffer and just all these other kind of scheduling aspects, there's a lot of things that a solopreneur or even a small team can do. And your Gary Vee Content Mile 2.0 is geared more towards people who don't have a 30-person team like Gary does.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing because just so many people want to be Gary, and there can be tons of Garys in their own niche or in that style, but there is a disconnect. A lot of people think that they need their own D-Rock or do all this stuff. It's like, nah, just focus on documenting what makes you great and then chop it up later. That's all. That's really the main secret.
At the beginning of this year, I was obsessed with this idea of doing 100 pieces of content a day because of Gary. So I kept spewing it out late last year. And you know how he is. But it's one of those things where I was like, how can I do this? And I was trying to strategize. And I showed you last time, too, my overarching kind of mind map of it. And it's just breaking it down from the video content and the podcast, Polycast in this case, and blog posts, and trying to spread it out. But being able to make 100 pieces of content a day, let alone per week. Because even if I were to just do it once a week, that's still more than most people. And so I was trying to figure that out. Where do you think people get stuck in that?
I think people get stuck by just looking at Gary and saying like, I'm going to do like shot for shot what Gary does. And then it becomes either too overwhelming and you're forgetting he's paying 30 full-time people to do this. This is their life. I mean, I've been with Gary on several occasions, and being at VaynerMedia, we've been there for a couple hours. Gary's still going. They're tag teaming some other videographer out. It's a team that manages it per day. And so there's that factor. So I think a lot of people see repurposing or they see that content multiplication and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to be like Gary. And so number one, they get stressed out trying to do the same volume. Number two, they try to do it as consistent right off the bat. So you're going from 0 to 100 in a few weeks. Guess what? You burn out, or you burn out of ideas, or you run out of money because you're trying to pay a videographer to edit and everything. And there's so many, a litany of reasons. So I think that what contributes to it, and they don't have a plan of what is my purpose? Besides putting out 100 pieces of content, what's my purpose? Where do I want to go in a year? Where do I want to go in 6 months, 3 months, next month with the content, and how can I show up appropriately there? And so I think that's the disconnect.
Well, then let me pick your brain there, because I feel like I had that same issue where at the beginning of the year, I wanted to do my Omni content every day, which was my strategy to at least make 40, if not 100 pieces, depending on how much I share it and whatnot. And I'm curious because I had a reason. I had plenty of long lists of ideas. I had a purpose, which was to build up courses and books down the line. I wanted to have that consistency, the factor. And yet I couldn't find the accountability or discipline to do it, despite the fact I know it's possible. I have done it 5 times at this point with the episodes, but 5 times versus every day is a big difference there.
Yeah, I think accountability and I really think it comes down to accountability and money. I mean, to me, I need to know every week I have a business meeting with the team, and I've got to justify why I'm doing the amount of content that's making us sales. So if not, they're like, Doc, why are you doing all this? We're not making any money. Like, great. They don't care that I put out 100 pieces of content. They're like, yeah, so what? We don't even quite like that content. Like, if it's not making money, like, what's the point? And then the other thing is accountability. Even just having a friend or someone that is trying to push you, I think that's really important. And so number one, I pick either a peer that I can text or something like that. Or also too, depending on if the person's competitive or something, I'm pretty competitive. So I will go and watch other people's material just to get riled up. And I'm like, I'm going to outdo them. Not in a way that like, oh man, I got to make so much money. Who does he think he is? But it motivates me to do that. So I think I think those two things, having clear goals and accountability once a week to show, okay, if I'm putting out this content, how much money am I trying to make? What am I trying to do? Am I positioning myself now that I can speak at this next event, or people know about me, or I'm connecting with this kind of person? I need to be in this ecosystem, so I need to show up this many times. Or, it's a good peer group and someone that knows the space or just supportive. They don't have to know digital marketing or anything, but as long as they're supportive of you and willing to check in and talk to you and be, active listening to you, I think that's really important.
Interesting. And so pivoting a little bit to your series here, your Build With Me series has seemingly taken off quite a bit. What do you think drives that success?
Yeah, I really think, the thing is, I've always done this. On my YouTube channel, I think there's like 200 videos live or something. I have really 800 videos plus on YouTube. The reason I just stopped, I never did it before. A lot of people in business just told me like I was giving too much away, or Doc, like it's long form, the way you do it, people won't engage and all this stuff. And during COVID, I was like, yeah, screw all you people. I'm doing what I feel like doing, and I'm just going to live stream and do what I'm going to do anyway. So the live stream, it's become more formalized, but if you see episode 1, it's the same exact thing. I'm sitting here, I have something that I'm interested in. I'm just going through the process. And so I think it's just a combination of the format is something that I enjoy doing. I would do it if I wasn't getting paid or not. And that's evident because it started without getting paid. And also too, I think it's timing. Like, it's really timing, man. Like, I'm not saying anything different than I said like 5 years ago. I was always talking about these tools. I've always been talking about AppSumo. I've been talking about AppSumo for like 8+ years, right? But I think with COVID and people trying to figure out how to lean out their business, how to do their own thing, a lot of people need side hustles with what's going on with COVID. Their jobs are changing. It's literally just timing. And so Andrew Warner, a guy that from Mixergy, so he's been around in the space for a while. We met about 2 years ago, and randomly in Austin, Texas, at one of Noah's events. And we've kept in touch. And like last year, we were at this conference for ManyChat. I think it was called the ManyChat conference. I don't even know what that conference was called. But anyway, we were there, and I was trying to think of a new business idea, and I was pitching him and all this stuff. And he just, in a polite way, told me to shut up. And he's like, I just need to learn how to do this. Like, Doc, you're telling me all these things. Like, I just want to know how to run my own business and learn how to hack it myself. I don't want to hire a bunch of people. I was like, so would you pay me if I just showed you tips on how to use technology better? He's like, yeah. So it was last year. It was how to use Zoom and how to connect on multiple platforms. And it was one of the videos I kept public. I never really thought of anything of it. And I went about my business. And like that video popped in March with COVID. I never,
Oh, yeah.
and I never really thought about it. And like I always had like, I had this YouTube channel specifically, I had less than like 100 subscribers for like 4 years. I never really tried anything on YouTube. And then I start seeing like all this traffic and people asking questions, people emailing me from YouTube, which I don't really get that a lot of times.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of a weird situation.
Yeah, it's weird. And so from there, I was like, this is the thing. Like, I was like, I've always wanted to do this. This is like a thing. And I was in this contest or this group, Max runs it, called 100 Days of No Code. And someone in the group in Slack was like, Doc, like you're making these videos. Like, that's really interesting. Maybe you should do videos every day. And I was like, well, why don't I just live stream it? Of course, I was like, well, let me I can chop it up later. Let me just do a full long length version, pillar content, and then chop it up. And so that's what happened. I was just consistent. And then I just started streaming every day. I was doing the same exact thing. I just turned on the camera and then it jumped. So this month it jumped up like 500. So we're going to hit 1,000 in a couple of days, but it was just seeing what worked and putting out a lot of content.
Well, and you kept mentioning there the opportunity aspect, and some of the topics that I've talked with a lot of previous guests is this idea of a COVID resolution or the opportunity during this time, and what are you trying to do to maximize the opportunity? Because obviously we're at home, we have or working from home or something like that, we have much more capacity to do something like this. And so your streaming or my interviews is just a good example.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, it's got to be something that just do it. There's no time and to get people that listen. You can get so many people that were so busy because they're at home and they're not at conferences. This is conference season. Like all last year, most of my calendar for like 3 months, I'm traveling to go to signature conferences. I don't even go to the talks. I show up to hotels to meet people that I know where they're staying just to be at bars because I know that I'll be able to talk to them that way. And that was my strategy. And now they're home. So it's even easier to get them now.
Well, and I might have mentioned this in our previous call, but Matchmaker.fm was the catalyst for me because literally everyone is in the right mindset of like, hey, let's meet because we have time. And so I was able to get kickstarted from that. And now you're my 44th guest. It's just crazy.
Good times.
Yeah.
I mean, podcast.co came from AppSumo. They came out with Matchmaker. I mean, they're a great team. So yeah, man, Matchmaker, I tell people all the time, if I was going to open up a business and start managing people's podcasting business, you can do that with Matchmaker FM. And if you bought podcast.co with the lifetime deal or just pay it monthly, just manage and create your own agency, create your own podcasting agency. There's so many ways that people need to pivot now. It opens up all these other side hustles.
Where do you think the biggest opportunity, like, is it live streaming, video, podcasting? Where do you see the biggest thing right now?
I'm going to go with live streaming. And the reason I might be, biased, but the reason I think live streaming is you can repurpose it as audio for podcasting. True. So it's a default. And when I'm doing live streaming and you're talking about something you love, you can now become the expert. And now, depending on the content or you see what pops or, what's going on in social, I now have a piece of content that I can now reach out to other conferences that are looking for speakers for their virtual conference. And they know that I have the setup and they know that I can speak about the subject. And so when we work with ones with virtual conferences, so many people don't know how to set their mic up, how to set their camera, if their internet's good. Me just showing that I can do all those things. Oh, by the way, I have over 100 episodes, blah, 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 and da-da-da-da. They're like, yeah, we need you to speak. And as long as you're concise, I have so much content that I've just rambled on about. Depending on the conference I want to speak at, I can just go find an episode and be like, I speak about this. And they're like, yeah, you did an episode about it. And then you're an expert or you're showing your value right there. And so, yeah, I'm going to go with live streaming.
What's interesting is I had half a mind to talk to you about doing live streaming for this interview, but I haven't had it all set up yet. So it's like, I probably should just wait till the next time. But it was being interesting. And on top of that, too, it is interesting how, like, just the skills of being able to set up your microphone. I've had people who spent 5 to 10 minutes on a Zoom call trying to fix their mic and stuff like that. It's like, I get it. It's a technical difficulty. I love how that Zoom video really got you started going there too.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. Like, man, it's, if you see mine and mine hasn't popped as, so mine's doing well, or I feel like it's going okay. I mean, there are tons of people doing better than me, but like the same thing is I've worked with the same videographer for 6 years. He filmed my first commercial for my first gym. We share an office, all this stuff. And for years he was trying to get his channel to pop, and really looking at the logistics. Now he has 3 videos over 9 million views. Now, the reason it happened was, if you look back, he put out 400 videos, but once he got one to pop, it was the same exact formula for the next one to pop 6 months later, the next one 3 months later. And so the only way you can get to that point is you've got to throw so much at the wall, especially if you're trying to compete on a platform like YouTube or dominate a category. It's just volume. There's always going to be like Chewbacca Mom. There's always going to be like Purple Rain and those kind of things. But to tell you the truth, like if you look at the vast majority of the virality, it's similar videos over and over and over again. And it's one version of that same application that makes them go viral.
Right.
And so that's what we do with repurposing. Like that's the whole purpose of repurposing content. The YouTube, the channel, why it's doing well, like we did more than 40 plus episodes of 2 hours each. And the one that I would never imagine, building your business with Netflix, that's the one that popped. And that's like, I didn't even think that episode, I think I've done so many better episodes, so many, but that's the biggest driver of the channel. That's one crazy. In like, you would never know. I wouldn't have known.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to do the Omni content every day, so I could get to those high video numbers, like 200, 300, because you do need quantity. Quality comes from the quantity. Like you have this certain episodes you think are better than others because you're like, hey, I've done this for such a long time, I can do it. And it's like, there's so much behind the strategy, but you also just have to execute and go and do it.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing with live streaming, and even like teaching courses or telling people how to do it. Like people think it's this big, like, oh, I'll get it when I have my new camera, I'll do this. Listen, look at Ty Lopez, and it's funny you found that video, but there's Ty Lopez or whoever, like as long as you have good audio and you have whatever camera, like people will watch it. Think about everything that goes viral. It's usually really poor, really like, voyeuristic. It's not good quality for the most part. It's very real. So getting started, it's a muscle. It's just you going live and pushing yourself to be consistent. And that's why when we teach live streaming, I'm like, go 7 days straight. Don't go once a week or 3 times a week. Like just practice 7 days, because you can go so much further if you just do this every day. I was looking at I was writing this down. Like I was thinking about push-ups. I'm like, I'm going to do like 30 a day. And then I was like, well, I'll do 30 a day for a year. I'm like, let me up that. Let me see if I can do 30 push-ups for 10 years. And then, okay, well now I'm putting in 100K of reps. Okay. Now you're there. And that's the same thing with this. Like it's literally not worrying about if people see it or not. Just put in the reps. And it's not sexy. People don't want to hear it. Like they want to hack, which is great. And repurposing allows you to do the hack, but you have to be really aware that you have to be totally consistent. Consistency is what's going to get you to wherever you want. The more money you want to make, where you want to be in the industry, it's consistency. That's it.
Well, and that's actually the reason why behind the Omni content. So I could be consistent. Ironically, it was the other thing happened. I was anti-consistent with these interviews. My accountability to like someone like you who's coming on, that's what drove me to actually do it weekly and that kind of thing. And going off that push-up thing, at the beginning of this year, I think it was, I was trying to do 100 push-ups a day for like a month or something like that. And mind you, push-ups had been my main kind of workout for the longest time. I had the body for it, and I burned out physically so bad. It took me weeks to recover. It was crazy. So the next question actually here is really interesting. You talked about MVP, the minimum viable builds. It is interesting how well that relates to the PolyInnovator mantra degree as well, because it's like idea of this Lego-like coming together of parts. So what sort of things do you hope to come see from all that?
Yeah. So I just feel like there's so many opportunities and people just don't move fast enough. I think there's so many trends, so many different, like, oh, drop shipping, or this is going to be big, or crypto, I'm like, listen, just go build something and see if you can make money and see if you enjoy it. Like, just do that. Like, don't worry about an agency. Stop trying to make $1 million next year. What is the easiest thing that we can do to validate your idea? See if you like it. and see if you make money. If you don't like it, we got to see, can we pivot to make you like it? Because I can make you a lot of money, but in 3 months you're going to be burnt out and you're going to hate me because you told me like, oh, you made me all this money, I'm unhappy and blah, blah, blah. So we need to find out how you can be happy. Also, we need to see if people are going to pay you. So, Ramit Sethi, years ago with one of his, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, there was something, I took a course on, and years ago, and it always stuck with me. He's like, does your target audience have the ability to pay you and the willingness to pay you? And if they don't have both, you've got to move on or re-tinker what you're saying to them. But if they don't have the ability to pay you, you're going to be a starving artist the rest of the time you trying to sell them this. If they don't have the willingness, they have the money, but they don't care to buy it, you're pulling teeth because you're trying to validate to them why you're special and they don't care about you. So if you can't see those two things very quickly, get out of the way or move and find other people that will appreciate you and have the money to pay you. So that's what a minimal viable build allows you to do in a structured way for you to not feel like you're by yourself. So it's clearly deliverables. This is what we're going to test. And then also, because there are tons of other ideas, people's situations, people's backgrounds, and I just can't account for it. So it's a template of saying, plug this in. This is a Venn diagram. Where are you? What skills do you have? What do you want to do? How fast do you want to do this? Great. Now that you've written out what the factors that I could never know about you, go and execute in a short period of time and make X amount of money. And if you don't, you got to go back to the drawing board and then figure it out again.
Well, and they say some of the best entrepreneurs are the ones who fail the most and fail quickly. And that lean kind of model there, being that minimal MVB, it allows you to fail quickly and see what works, what doesn't, and then move on, like you're saying. Exactly right.
Exactly right. And, and for me, I've always, I do stuff with trends and the hustle and stuff like that. And absolutely, I love new things. But what things that really get on my nerves, number one, even for myself, I get mad when I don't finish a project, and I get discouraged when I feel like, man, I feel like I could have done it if I had more direction. So MVBs was scratching my own itch was I wish I had someone that just gave me like almost like a small Lego set. And that's what I was thinking about in my head that, there's ones that you can build out like the Death Star. And then there's ones where you can just build out like a speeder. Like MVBs are speeders for you to understand, feel confident, get those easy wins, almost like training modes in video games. And then you're like, okay, I understand the fundamentals. And then you can decide, do you want to advance and go to level 2 and everything like that, level up? Or you just want to stay with MVBs? That's fine. Let's move on. Let's get to another MVB and that's it.
Well, and continuing the kind of Lego analogy too, I was always a big fan of Lego growing up, especially Star Wars, and wanting to build my own ship. And so I actually didn't level up very much. I only bought like one big set. And most of the time it was the smaller sets, trying to build them together into this new ship and trying to be creative with it. Maybe that's just a creative drive, but it is interesting the things that if you can think about it in a different light and how things could be, you can really change how those Lego sets come together.
Yeah. And I think this comes back to remixing and DJing. Like it's so much. And I love seeing expression. I love seeing when people take an idea and they go in a different direction you could have even fathomed. And it's because their own personal life, their experiences, all those things. And I find that's what I find joy in having students and really clients. You're seeing what they can do. And as long as they're successful and they're happy and that's what they enjoy, I'm like, yeah, more power to you. Like go off and do that.
Well, and one thing that kind of is making me think of is Notion, because it's kind of a growing trend right now of a lot of these YouTubers coming out with like, hey, this is my template. And I've been watching August Bradley's YouTube channel because it's all about Notion at this point. And it's just interesting how the power of what you can do with that tool, it's almost like Legos where you can put it together in a unique way. And all these different YouTubers are coming up with their own Lego sets that you can copy, but being able to remix it is the real key. Like I made a CRM for my Polycast guests. It was one of the first things I did. And I think it was one of the best things I could have done because I was able to make it unique and cater just to what I wanted from each of you.
Yeah, it's perfect. And at first I hated Notion because actually, okay, so part of the build on one of the episodes, it's building a Notion because one of my friends, he would either I always mess up titles, so I don't know where he's in Notion, but he did a lot of their what do you call it? Meetups and did all those things. He's a huge advocate, did that in New York and all that stuff. So he was really big in it. And his looks like a dumpster fire because his mind, the way that he was building, I was like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
And he's like, no, you need to get on Notion. And I was like, no, like if that's what Notion looks like I don't want any part of it. But that's the thing. Once you understand just the concepts of it, it's so powerful. And listen, man, I've built with WordPress, Squarespace. I used to do this with the agency 10 years. And I think I just got burned out of just going back in dashboards and everything. The Build With Me show is on Notion. I'm going to keep it on Notion. Like I know it could look better and all these things. I just love how simple Notion is and what, if I want to create something or do a table or do something, I just love the power of it. So yeah, I'm all for it, man.
Yeah, well, and August is talking a lot about like roll-ups and different connected databases. And so being able to see a dashboard like that, and that's what I'm trying to work on for myself too. And it's interesting because have you made anything unique in Notion?
Anything unique? Well, I made an MVB of Twitch. So I wanted to do something. It's something called ShipStation, and was it ShipStation? ShipStream. Wait, I got to find it. Anyway, so there's another site. I'll pull it up so I won't just randomly have people looking at the wrong things. But there was a site that I wanted to be featured in, ShipStreams.com, ShipStreams. And I wanted to be on it, and I want to be a maker on it because it's people shipping live. And that was one of the bigger things. And I liked it. The problem was the API for Twitch was off for a while, and I tried to be on it, and I just didn't think I was active on it. So I was like, I want makers to be showcased on something like Twitch for makers. How can I build that? So I just built it with Notion and other people's Restream widgets, and I just posted it. And it's a stream of all the makers, what kind of maker they are, what time they show up. And so it's a mini Twitch all there. And again, it's the MVB, it's a minimal viable build, but it does exactly what Twitch would do. You can connect with the people, you can go to their channel, subscribe, whatever, but now you can see other builders that you might not have known about. So that idea now is spawning into, more of a more full-fledged thing. But yeah, that's just one of the things I've done with it.
Feel free to send me that later on. And one thing I also noticed too, I don't know how I found it honestly at this point, but you had a Notion page for Build With Me. And I saw a whole bunch of go straight to your inbox, join the exclusive community. And you just had this unique landing page for it. I thought that was really cool.
Cool, man. Yeah. And it's just I can't remember. I got to find one person. It's another marketing agency. I saw him on No Code Coffee, and he did something similar at the time. But he was doing it for his agency, and I was just doing it for streaming. But at the same point, I built the page just based on what people were saying. At first, it was just the widget for Restream, and then a opt-in like, hey, if you want to join, I'll send you all the new episodes in your inbox. And then other people were asking like, well, how do I start in no code, or how do I start with these things? And so I built other no-code things in Outgrow and other viral calculators. And so I just dropped links and then just added the Build With Me community. Just people like, how can I know more of this? I'm like, well, we're going to do a pricing structure. And then I just, on live, I was like, how much would you pay for this? I'm like, I'm going to do 3 tiers. Founders, $49 a month. And I just straight put prices out there. And that's how we got our first memberships and ran from there. So. Yeah,
that's
man.
cool. Yeah. Well, and just before we move on to, I agree. I hated Notion at first. I tried making a database and then it felt so confined. I didn't realize that there was a whole tab where you had to make it full width or not. And just that small difference made a difference. And so I always ask guests about their principles in life, and yours were structure, innovation, and peace. And I greatly resonate with those. What was your mindset behind those answers?
I'm a pretty simple person. I only like a few things. I love custard ice cream. I love taking naps in the day, and I just love being able to have time to tinker and stuff like that. And I need time for myself and to think about what I want to do. And for a while, my wife says I'm ADHD. I might see some logic in that. But the problem was before I used to think if I was too structured, it doesn't allow me to be me.
Mhm.
But I realize the more structure you have and constraints, the more creative you can be. And for years, I struggled with that. We were talking about this before. At one point, I had 7 jobs at the same time. I was running a gym. I was a physical therapist assistant. I was working in 2 different cities at the time, and I would commute during the day. I would teach my gym classes in the morning, in the evenings. In the middle of the day, I would see my patients. Then after the gym, I would see more patients. Then at night, I would do digital marketing. And then I used to write for 2 magazines. It was just out of control. And I used to think like, no, this is living. This is all the things I get to do. Yeah. Nah, and you burn yourself out. So I found bullet journaling a couple years ago, and I don't adhere to the strict structure of like how some people would think of it, but bullet journaling really changed my life in being structured. Mm-hmm. And then also a book called Deep Work and Understanding the Fundamentals of what you need to be doing in structuring and minimizing things. And so that all came from structure. I mean, and that allows me to be more creative. Mm-hmm. I've got to have peace. I've got to be able to, I love being able to lift weights and hearing like just nothing but the bar and being there by myself. I like walking now. I never thought I would enjoy walking, but with COVID and just walking has really changed how I act. Yeah. And I can tell when I don't walk. Like I get irritated.
I should go for a walk actually after this. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. It just makes me, and then you're by yourself. And then innovative, I love seeing how when I first was in high school, there was still, Dreamweaver was a thing, Cold Fusion was a thing, and I hated it. I hated it so much. And I always wanted to do what I was doing now. The tools just weren't there yet. Mm-hmm. And the same thing with video. So innovation, I love being able to express myself, helping others to innovate and express themselves using technology. And so those are the 3. That's why I like it.
Love it. And I like how you get a little pitch at the end there too, slogan almost in a way. It is interesting too to think about like a walk and whatnot, because I've always been a techie too. I think you have been for most of your life, from what I can tell. And it's just interesting how much technological overload can be like real damaging to someone like you and I who are just on computers 24/7. And so those walks really make a big difference on just offloading ideas. Same with the bullet journaling, that brain dump concept. And there's something that keeps circling around, the second brain by Tiago Forte and whatnot. And Ali Adal made a video about it recently. And he's mentioned something about just being able to get all your inputs out on like Notion or something like that, and that can get it ready for an output. Having it on the slow burn, or even a fast turnaround if you want, but just having it sit there and letting you kind of brew on it, and then you can make something content on it.
Yeah, I think that's so huge. Yeah, I really agree with that. That was something I was really overwhelmed before. I didn't know about Second Brain. I heard about Second Brain. I think I was watching a Creative Live class. I love Creative Live. Like, it's just, I tell all the people, if there's so many things, actually, I had to credit my dad, because I was going to go to this really expensive conference, all these things. And he just opened my eyes of like so many platforms that are very minimal cost, like Khan Academy, that's free. And I didn't know. And that's how I found Chase Jarvis, and that's Creative Live, all these things. But Creative Live and I'm not getting paid by them, by the way. I just love there's so many good videos. So when I found that, there was a video about bullet journaling and simplifying and finding how to streamline your life. So that's when I started putting timers on my phone, getting like hidden me, so I don't see everything on my desktop. I have like Facebook news eradicator, so I can't see anything on Facebook. Like it's really changed my life because I've had so much distractions. And like you said, I'm always in tech. I'm always trying to do these things. Notifications going off all the time. I had to get rid of the new Twitter app. I hate the new way that they did Twitter. That I can't shut off like the inbound notifications that keep flagging. Anyway, I was like, no, it's done. I need to take Twitter off it was giving me anxiety. So, streamlining allows you to now have the time and the mental bandwidth to think of great ideas and doing other things. So, I'm sure we could talk about it later, but this is why I've automated my whole business. Technically, if I wanted to, everything's automated. I only had to work 90 minutes a day based on automations. I work more because I just enjoy what I do, but That's
Speaking
what
of
it
that
is.
kind of minimal working per week, that 4 hours a week kind of thing, like Tim Ferriss, he also talks
Yeah.
about the attention units. You only have so many AUs every day. And unless you automate it or dump it into a second brain or just do something to offload what you're doing into some kind of system, you're going to end up burning out, like you said earlier.
Yeah, I 100% believe that.
So you opened up the largest parkour gym on the East Coast in the past. What are some tips for someone who wants to get started with that exercise art?
Parkour. Opening their own gym or just getting started with parkour? What do you
Parkour.
parkour? I mean, I think it's just beautiful movement. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you can definitely see things like, I guess, like Ninja Warrior and that kind of stuff, which we built all of those things. But I just always love the human body. It's just so amazing.
Yeah.
It's just intelligent design. Look at the ankle, look at the knee, look at so many things of what it can do. I think parkour is just an expression of that. And so with that, I think just finding someone that you like, there's so many, it's almost like personal trainers. There's so many different personal trainers, and because you mesh with their personality or why they motivate you. The same thing with parkour. There might be some parkour, and I call them artists. There might be some artists that you just love, like how intricate or how fluid they look. Kind of just go and look at their art, look at how they do it,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there you'll fall in love. There's so many, I try to get out of like the terminology and trying to tell people like, oh, you guys say it, like it's just movement. It's beautiful movement. Go find people that inspire you with movement,
Mm-hmm.
and then understand, okay, what are their combinations getting together and all those things. And I would say start there. If it's the other way, you like the competition and the Ninja Warrior stuff, I'm like, go find a gym. Or if you're at home, guess what? Go build. If you see most of the people that started in American Ninja Warrior, they built all of those things. So think about how you can build your own salmon ladder, or build your own rigs, and that's fun in itself.
Yeah.
My gym, number one, I was broke at the time, but I never bought anything. We actually welded or went to scrap yards, and we got metal workers, I guess. We got them to actually build the entire
That's
thing.
cool.
So
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of, and it's expressive. I mean,
Yeah.
and like no one can take, like you can go to Rogue or you can go anywhere and buy the stuff. I'm like, no one's gonna have what we have. We built everything by hand, and it's gonna stay for many decades to come, if not longer.
Well, and it's interesting too, because when I started pursuing my own physical development, calisthenics, and down the line, more extreme calisthenics came to be my favorite thing to do. And so doing hanging crunches, or I don't even know some of the terms of some of the stuff I do, but I wanted to be able to do the human flag, and I can't do that yet. But there was some crazy movements I would do, and people would be like, oh, you should do American Ninja Warrior. I'm like, I don't know if I have the strength for that per se yet, but it is something that kind of crossed my mind. And now that I knew about your past, it's like, oh, I should ask him about that.
Yeah, no, it's fun, and it was just it's so weird where the gym was. It's just, again, I'm always talking about it. I don't believe in luck. I believe in there's opportunities and also skill at a point of when opportunity hits, it's that right apex. And when we were building the gym, Elliot Hall was on the American Ninja Warrior team. He represented the U.S. in the show for years. He lived 20 miles from the gym, and it was just a friend of a friend told us, he's like, yeah, he needs a place to train. Has all these crazy ideas. So he came over and he's like, I would love to have this. I would love to do this. Where could it be? And we built it based off of what, his training regimen. And it was happenstance, it was just timing. So yeah, I always say with gyms, the key with gyms is, I always tell people, don't go broke opening your own spot. Don't go broke. Go talk to an MMA gym, go to an existing gym, rent out a spot. My first gym was less than, like, it was 10 by 15 or something like that in an MMA gym. We started from there, and I paid per student to the MMA gym until we had enough money to have our own spot. Like, there's so many ways to do it in a way that's cost effective and not going out of business. I'm very passionate because I have tons of gym owners, tons of people that I've worked with, and they're out of business now. So I'm really big on making it worthwhile and making it structured for the long haul.
Well, and it sounds like that little space in MMA gym was your MVB of that gym.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
So I saw your video on the importance of your video business card concept there, but I didn't see how to actually make one. Maybe I just missed it. How do you go about creating an awesome video business card?
Oh yeah. So I gotta find which one. I talked about it. I think that's one Build With Me episode. I talk about it, right? But
I think
there,
so.
yeah. So they're all connected. But basically, a video business card, I view that it's not too salesy, and it's just your unique personality showing on video, and then it allows people to understand more about you. And either people are going to connect with you, and it's really more of a conversation starter for your right target audience, for people that want to work with you, or showcasing why you should be in front of other audiences. So an example of this, if you type in, AppSumo Doc Williams, you'll see probably one of my favorite video business cards. I've done other ones in different parts of my career, but that one, basically you're introducing yourself, what you do, and then you're telling a little bit about yourself of why you created the methodology or business that you wanted to in your life. And then that's the end of the video. It's no hard pitching. It's no nothing. The reason I really think it's effective, and it's been effective for me and tons, at least hundreds of others. It is not my own original idea, by the way. Video Warriors, if you've seen them, they're a great community, and they do a lot with helping videographers getting the money or commanding the rates that they want in their profession. But they create video business cards for people. And my idea was, okay, well, yes, you could get a videographer to do it, but most people, if they had the formula, they can do it themselves. And so that's basically it. You're finding out you're talking about yourself, what you want to be known for, and then you're telling the story. So actually I have two video business cards. I have one for the Gary V Content Model 2.0, but that was very specific for graduates of 4Ds, ones that are working with Vayner. So it's highly specific. So it's if you're not, there's a lot of terms that aren't native to people, like, what is this? And I don't know what this is. It was supposed to be like that. It was supposed to be like that. The AppSumo one was a lot more generic, and it was really talking about product design, building businesses. And then my core value is creating education for ones with disabilities and ones that need help. So that was that one.
It's interesting. I saw both of those, and I was just kind of thinking too, it's like sharing your why. It's not about pitching your product and like that. Sharing your why so people can actually be more interested in you. And personally, I was just thinking too, like, what could I do to make my own? But on top of that too, what was the kind of thought process there? It almost seems perfect for kind of specificity too. So if you have multiple niches, you can make multiple different ones and specify for those niche.
Yeah. And I really think about it. It's almost like, I don't know, like a utility belt, like a superhero. You have different gadgets for different things. And so I always say, focus on just one video business card, and then you can always expand. But what I found is when you have one, people will talk back to you or give you buzzwords, or they articulate what they liked about the video. And sometimes what they tell you can be used for a landing page or used just in everyday life, because they're synthesizing what they appreciated about it. And a lot of times I find that people are telling me things like, I wouldn't even thought of, like, oh, you enjoyed that? Oh, okay, well, that's fine. But I write it down, and it actually ends up being something I can replicate later on in a video, because I'm like, oh, that's why people are connecting. That's why people care. And so I think it's a great tool for marketing, but also understanding what people think about you in a way. Yeah.
So a couple things to lead off of there that I wanted to mention is that, firstly, like when someone went to my website, they would see like the term Polymath, like, oh, what does that mean? What does that mean? And that led me to think about, okay, let's create a glossary or documentation on my site to define it. And then on these shows, I ask a canned question to everybody: what is a polymath to you? We'll get to that later. And that question is the only one I ask each guest. That's the same. And it's just one of those things that one little kind of frequently asked question ended up leading to be one of the biggest things, or theme of my niche, so to speak. And the other thing was, I had James Mulvaney, the CEO of Podcast Co, on my show. He was one of the first guests I had. And he told me about how when he started doing his pitches to be on different people's podcasts, he made 3 different ones, more geared towards marketing, one geared towards business, one geared towards something else too, can't remember. But he made his own little video pitch, kind of like a business card in a way, specifically for that particular area.
Makes perfect sense. I mean, I think it's, you know, a lot of times I find that there's a lot of definitions or things that's happening in the world or things in marketing. I just think it's innate. I just think it's how humans connect. And, you know, we're trying to do something at a very, very quickly and ascertain the environment and what people are saying. So creating different video business cards and showing off who you are, people seeing that you're a real person, it's checking all the boxes of people to trust you. I think it's really important if people see your natural face and you smile or things like that. It connects with people to do it, and automatically you can go further than an email, you know, all of these other things. It's just instant. And what I found is when you do video business cards, you find more people that are interested in your personal brand, and they connect with you, or people that don't reach out to me, they don't connect with me, which is totally fine too. Yeah. So it kind of almost, it pushes away people that aren't great for you just because of your unique personality and your value prop.
Yeah, and I feel like you and I both have a pretty like strong personality in a good way, but it can be something that's like turn off. Like some people think Gary Vee is very abrasive in the way he speaks just because he has a strong personality.
Yeah,
and something that you just made me think of recently, I don't know why I did this, but I spent like a few hours one day making short videos to all my friends and family that I saw on my Facebook Messenger list. I don't know why, and it worked really well. Some people are like, whoa, I did not expect that. And I think that that's something that's unique people can do. And so for you, from working for companies like VaynerMedia to physical therapy and even creating your own brands, you've cultivated this interdisciplinary life. What drove you to follow each of those passions?
To tell you the truth, when I think about these things, I'm competitive. I don't know. That's a hard question for me. I think just because, I mean, this might be too simple. I want it. Like, it's just, you know, this is the thing. Like, I don't know. It's like one of my friends, and this is going to be an anime reference, so people are going to be like, what in the world? But there's this show called Naruto, and it's a ninja show. But anyway, it's two different people. And there's one, the main character is not really talented, but can work extremely hard. And then he has his rival that is really talented, but just everything comes easy. And my friend, who's got me into digital marketing and done everything basically to get me involved, he just has always been smart, always good at everything he's ever wanted to. The thing is, and he knows this, his work ethic, it's too easy for him, so he stops. And so he asked me to he's like, oh man, you're working with AppSumo, you're doing stuff with Vayner, you're doing stuff with The Hustle. Like, how he's more talented. I have the grind. Like I'm just willing to put in the work, and he knows this. So he is really like Bubble.io. Bubble is it's just a no-code tool, but it's horrible to work with. Like the learning curve is so steep. He picked it up in an afternoon. Afternoon, he was building apps. And I could not even build a dashboard when I was first doing it. I was so mad. And it was so easy. He built this leaderboard, built something like Product Hunt, built up, down. He's excellent. Stopped it in a day, whatever. Because I work hard, and I have to, because I have a lot of limitability. Well, I have limits. Yeah. So I'm severely dyslexic, all these things. I just work very hard. And I know that I've seen certain things in my life. I'm like, I want to get to that point. I wanted to work at ESPN. I wanted to do something with VaynerMedia. I'm like, I don't know what it is. First it was, I just want to get to the building. Then it was, I want to work with them. Then it was, and it was just different goals. And so I think I've just always had a chip on my shoulder and always wanted to do what I wanted to do. And when I was younger, I'll tell you something. This is actually something that this is going to be newer. I was going to start saying this. I never really said this before, but maybe in new interviews and stuff. I was held back when I was in second grade. So I couldn't read in second grade. And at the time, I just didn't understand. That was soul crushing. My parents, obviously, they had the best intentions. I had been in a lot of classes. To me, being held back, like that was like soul crushing. That was just like never could do it. And from that point on, pretty much, anything that someone's like, no, you can't do it, this is too hard, I've just always reflected back. And I'm like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to do these things. And it's scorched earth. Like I have no like middle ground. Either I'm going to do it or like I'm not going. So to me, when someone tells me I can't do something, I've always done it. One last thing, I don't tell this in interviews, but you're in fitness and everything. Yeah. I was in muscle and fitness when I was 18 because I was severely obese as a child. And when I was around 15, I was dropping weight, but my sister's boyfriend at the time, I told him, I was like, I'm going to be in muscle and fitness one day. And he's like, you just don't have the physique. You'll never do it. And I held that resentment so much. I mailed him a copy when I got in muscle and fitness. I mentioned him in the article because it was before and after. And I was like, that's it. I'm always like that person. I was like, and he couldn't say anything. I was like, now what? That has always been my life. I just find, and I don't have any ill will to him, but like to me, to get to that point, if you watch the Jordan documentary or anything about Last Dance with the NBA, like Michael Jordan made up stories just to get himself riled up for him to get ready for games. And I think that's what I do in my mentality. Like my wife is always like, why do you get so, I get like that because I'm like, I'm going to get to that level. So this is a bit of a tangent. You asked me like, why do I do it? I think it's all of these things, factors put together that I'm just like, I want to win on my terms. Now I've had businesses that fail all the time. That's not the thing, but I want to know that I've done my best to get to that level. And so that's why I pursue it at that.
Well, and I feel like if you didn't pursue it, that would bother you more.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah, probably.
There's a term that keeps coming up in mind from your answers called multi-potentialite, and that's someone who has the potential to do many things. And you definitely seem to fit that term. And I also resonate with you because when I was growing up, I was kind of a weakling. I wasn't like overweight per se, but I did have like a little belly when I was a young teenager, something like that. And then when I got to 15, 16, I was scrawny and people always made fun of me and teased me. And then around 17, and you resonate with this, I became a lifeguard. And that really changed a lot of like, okay, now you have to swim, now you have to build muscle. Then I became a swim instructor, which you had to as well. And it's just one of those things where that whole shift there. Now I'm muscular, and it's like people saw me. Someone who used to tease me in 9th grade saw me at the gym that I work at, and he was like, he texted one of our old friends who used to make fun of me too, and he's like, hey, you remember that kid we used to tease? Yeah, dude, he's ripped now. And that just floored me at that point. I was just like, yes, in your face, let's go. Yep. And we became friends again too. It's just funny, and so this also leads me to the next question here. Then, what is a polymath to you?
That's interesting. Well, to tell you the truth, I had to look up the definition because I was like, wait a minute, what is it? You know what? To me, it's almost like a maven with multiple expertise. Like, I feel like it's just someone that has the potential to impart knowledge or do multiple things at a certain level, at a high level. That's what I attribute it to. I think there's obviously, I think it has the potential for a lot of people to be like that if they wanted to be. I feel like a lot of people are like, you're either this or that. I think it just depends if you want to. And then also do you even want to be? Like, I don't think it's a bad thing if you don't want to be it. But I think in nature, there are some that are more drawn to it by personality. But I'm thinking it's one of those things. So I know that's a convoluted answer, but I think it's you spanning multiple genres or multiple skill sets and being proficient at a certain level or competency at a certain level.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Is that usually they say like expert or master level and whatnot, but I think, like you said, high level is the basic way of explaining it. I like, and like you said too, not everyone has to be one. And there's also been this kind of concept too, where being polymathic is bad because you're spreading yourself too thin. But you're a prime example being the opposite of that. You spread yourself out and it's been rewarding for you. And I think you and I both kind of have that natural inclination to be polymathic. But there's also people who are naturally specialists, and we need specialists. You don't have to be one or the other. I think it's actually kind of, I don't want to say sad, but kind of disappointing when people get stuck in the middle ground where they're neither. They're not a specialist or a polymath, and they don't know where to go. And I feel bad about that. I empathize with that, because if you don't know what your passion is or Ikigai, that does make it really hard. But yeah.
Yeah, cool. No, I agree. Yeah, and I always think about, as you were saying that, I was just thinking about my wife. My wife is very similar to like my best friend. My wife is so talented, but she's so talented. Like, she just does it. And then you know what the thing is, whenever it becomes work, she doesn't want to do it. Like, if it's a job, like to me, when like I can do something, I'm like, oh crap, I can make money off this. Like, that's my first thing. She's like, oh wait, this is a job? Like, forget it. Like, whatever it is. And so, she works with me, and she does everything, like does all of my thumbnails, does everything. But as long as it's not, it's on her terms. So I'm like, get this done, whatever. Don't make this like, don't make it a thing. So it's, but you know, I think there's so many people, but I, like you're saying, like, I need an accountant. Like I have an accountant. I'm like, I need people to be really good at that one thing. They love it. I'm like, great. Like you don't like anything else. You love doing audits and everything. I'm like, good on you. We need people in the world like this, because I would be a terrible accountant. I would be terrible. So yeah, I agree. You need both in this world.
Well, and I've always kind of had this idea of striving for perfection and trying to be as good as many different things. And I know I'm weird about that. And I don't like math really for the most part. I've always been kind of bad about it in school. I've gotten better as an adult, but personal finance was something that I knew I wasn't good at. I had overspent quite a lot as a teenager too, but I paid off any kind of debt I had and then got more debt because of the phone. But that's a whole nother story. Point being is that like I learned personal finance by practicing and by taking classes. And my great grandfather, actually, my grandma was telling me this, how he was never really that much of an educated man, but he made sure he knew how the tax system worked, because he was a blue collar kind of guy. He didn't want to be screwed over. And I thought that was just so fascinating, how like he would just like make sure every part of his taxes, all the deductibles, all of that was finessed.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
And so this actually kind of goes back to kind of passion and how your wife is talented and whatnot. How can we get to the root of someone's passion or Ikigai?
I just follow what makes them excited. I think it's either two ways, positively or even negatively, as long as you find passion. Because if you're emotionally like if you're emotionally, you can get invested that you really hate something. Okay, I can use that, because maybe I can say, okay, are you going to change it now? Are you going to change the industry? Are you going to change society that way? And that passion is brought out because it's counter, right? The other version is, you know, what do you enjoy doing in your spare time? And I think there still needs to be, there's got to be different ways of, although I enjoy what I do, I still have very different hobbies. I think certain people will be like, well, I'll turn every hobby into a business. And I mean, I've done that, but I also think at a certain point, you're going to not be able to use that hobby anymore for escapism and then be able to level up.
Yeah.
So I think there's got to be two things. I think you've got to have a job that you can love. And I know that's easier said than done, but I'm saying even as a side hustle, if you want to, this is even if you want to, there's some people that do not want to mix your hobby with work. I understand that. But I think if you can go that way, you can always find something. And I would really start there. If there's someone that says I'm not passionate about anything, the other option is throwing them into a situation that makes them uncomfortable, and they will quickly decipher what they like and what they don't like. And then you can work from there. So there's some people like, I just don't have any hobbies. Okay. So you just like laying there on the ground, like, you know, like, and you just break it out. Like there's some people like, oh, I just don't care about the taste of food. Okay. You don't care about the taste of food until you taste something you really hate. Yeah. Then we can have this conversation. So it's just trying to find that path.
I think kind of in a good example, and not to talk too much about me because this is an interview about you, but we talked about last time on our talk that I've tried almost like 90, no, not almost, over like 90 different social media management tools. And I can't find the one that will work for me. I even, like I told you too, I worked on Zapier, make a 20-step Zap, and I still couldn't find one. And that's a pain point that makes me not hate, but really dislike a lot of these tools that are saying, oh, we can do all these different things. It's like, no, you can't do some of the basic things that I need. I don't know if that would be a good example or not with a passion for that.
Well, that makes sense, because then I'm sure you're not the only one that feels that same way. And once you can create a solution, it's going to be very unique, that people are going to be searching or finding something, and they're going to find your content of you building that thing that you're struggling with, and you're going to connect. So that becomes, I see, if we were talking about earlier, I mean, I can see that as a micro SaaS product, which then allows you to make, you know, monthly recurring revenue. And then that allows you to fuel whatever you want to do with your other side of the brand. So I think it's perfect. I think it definitely works.
Where do you see the potential of creating an online business in 2020?
Oh, it's limitless. Everyone's got we have this segment on the show called Brick and Pivot, Like, I don't think that there's just brick and mortar anymore. If you're brick and mortar, you're thinking about pivoting. You're thinking about optimizing your space. I mean, so I'm not doing a in-depth video about this, but I found it interesting. It was in trends.co, one of their issues a couple weeks ago, but it was talking about certain places turning their businesses in sections for single by party of one. So say, for instance, if you had a huge area and it used to be a dining hall, it was a restaurant, you were always trying to fill the capacity. Well, to them, okay, can we just section off this one section, pay less for this lease, and we're going to do party of ones. We'll do social distancing, and this one section, you can go in, everything's sanitized. You don't have to talk to anyone. You use an app, you sit down, someone brings food, or it's already there for you. Party of one. So it's pivoting spaces if you're still in a lease or doing things like that. Across the board in 2020, everyone is learning new skills. Everyone's learning how to work from home. There are huge, Silicon Valley companies that are now going to be doing work from home permanent. They are getting rid of buildings. I know people in San Francisco, they're leaving San Francisco in droves. Same thing with New York. People are trying to figure out what they're going to do for their next step. Mm-hmm. If you follow the pain, you will follow a business that you can do that will be profitable. Even if it's a software with a service kind of thing or consulting. It doesn't have to be just a SaaS product. It's going to be a killing. Now, again, we're pivoting too. We've lost some huge clients because their businesses have failed. Yeah. We're pivoting too. But I think the opportunities, and this is the main thing, you were talking about finances, lean out your business, cut out anything that is excess, subscriptions, rent, anything, so you can survive this and thrive when you're coming out.
Well, and that also goes for personal finance too. Like if you want to have Netflix because you're stuck at home, I get it. But you need Hulu, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, all that extra crap. If you have one, that's usually what you need. It's at least one. And then cut out maybe some extra, you're not dining out anymore. You have a whole nother income stream right there. And so, yeah. And then on top of that, pivoting is kind of the same idea as adapting. And they say that the species that is most likely to survive are the ones that are able to adapt the greatest. Not paraphrase there kind of, but considering everything going on right now in the world too, in your opinion, how can someone be able to strongly adapt to the times?
I just think you've got to be actively listening, listening. I cut you off. What did you say? I'm sorry.
Well, no, I kind of interrupted you there, but essentially speaking, you were saying be lean. And so I was kind of just reiterating that because that's kind of what you said.
So I think being lean really helps you to go. I have to give credit to my wife. I did not do this. Back in February, my wife's like, yeah, we're going to stock up on all this stuff. Right. And I got to tell this quick story because this is crazy. So, my wife's parents, she was adopted. Her parents are older. They lived through, like they were kids of the Depression, stuff like that. And so they're always hoarding. I always call their house like black market Costco, like just insane. But they straight up, when this thing happened, we get this giant box, and I swear to you, like I lift and everything, but I just wasn't prepared by what this was or it was 86 rolls of toilet paper in this giant box. Like, who buys in that bulk? Like, I was like, why? And then they messaged me a month later and they're like, if you need any more, I was like, how could a human go through? No, we don't need any more. Like, so what I take from that is if you can stock up and really keep your costs lower, you can make it so you can get through this situation. So number one, traveling is not really happening for the most part. Everything, just keeping it to the minimum. And then also, if you're stuck at home, like you were saying with Netflix, we have a partnership with our friends. We're like, listen, you got YouTube TV, you got this one. Like, we just have a whole circuit. And like, that's what we're doing. The only thing we don't have is HBO Max. And we're all like, we're too broke. We're not doing it. We got everything else. We have everything else we need. So I think being smart, talking about that, but also for you to pivot and to be successul, I think it's really important for you to be offering a service or just helping. I mean, anyone can offer a service. There was, so I think it was called like you need a haircut.com or something like that. And it was one of the like #1 on Product Hunt, like in March. And it was barbers that would charge $30 for Zoom calls to teach you, like you would cut your own hair and they're telling you like, no, do that. No, put that down. Like you're doing, oh no, back up. And there really is anything at this point. You just have to look at where the pain is in the market. Yeah. And the great thing about this is you can be really niche. I'll just go with 2 examples. Number one, I knew someone that was really big into fly fishing. And he's like, fly fishing, there's all these old message boards. There's nothing that's been innovative. And he wanted a connection where people could buy or rent out equipment just for fly fishing. He straight did that with glide apps in less than an hour, killing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would have never have even thought of that. I'm like, what? Yeah. The other thing is my wife was talking about IKEA. If anyone knows about this and if they're in the United States, their pickup or shipping is just trash right now because of what's happening with COVID. Like their infrastructure is trash. So much so that someone he pulled the API, he created something where it just tells you if it's available in your store or can you go for pickup or not. And it's basically, he just pulled out the code of basically what's happening in every location and he just has it as a dashboard. So my wife wanted a certain type of blinds, and she's like, "It's only in only in San Diego. We're on the East Coast. We're right outside DC." She says this in a subreddit group. Someone's like, "Oh, I'm going to IKEA later today. You want me to pick it up for you?" I was like, "What?" I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she was so nice. She said, "I was like, so how much do you charge you?" She's like, "No, she was just doing it as a friend." I was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "That's a business." So I built a micro marketplace for IKEA. Just people that are in the subreddit group. Like there are tons. One last thing, she's into Jeopardy, and she was going to learn to be on the show, and she just knows all this trivia because she can just kill anyone at local trivia pubs and everything. I was like, you need to be on Jeopardy. We need money. Go be on Jeopardy. Like that's she hears this from me all the time. So she was going there. There's study groups, huge study groups on subreddits for Jeopardy. I was like, wait, is there like a job board of ones that have been on the show that can coach you and all this stuff? She's like, no. I'm like, that's another business. I'm like, there's just so many opportunities. Just listen, be in the niches, go to subreddit groups, go what you're interested in. And I guarantee you can build a business because people have a pain. They just haven't productized it yet. And there you go. Start making some money.
Well, and I think that's the power of super niches too, getting that real blue ocean kind of thing. And I have this weird, opinion when it comes to niche. I hate niche. I hate being niched. And so I don't know if it's the polymath in me or because I wanted my brand to be about polymathy that I actually came up with a micro episode of the Polycast called the anti-niche, where I'm literally just like trying to fight the man because all these content creators from like Roberto Blake and Sean Cannell and all these different creators are like, you need to niche down one topic. That's it. And I'm like, no, just no.
And I agree with you I agree and I don't agree. I agree with you you know what I always say, like, if you want to do whatever you want to do and that makes you happy, keep doing it. I'm always about, I just want a stream of revenue that makes my money. Like, I hate to be like, and I'm not like, oh, it's gotta be money. But to me, I hate being stressed thinking about money. So I just need one thing that will make me money so I can be more creative. So like, I'm not sure if we talked about this, but Amazon with AWS, like the only profitable section of Amazon is AWS. Did you know that?
Well, isn't all their store being profitable right now, the e-commerce, considering COVID?
Check it. Yeah. Check their burn rate. Their burn rate.
Okay.
And breaking even in profitability, totally different things. So check that one. I do not know since COVID, but I'm almost 100% that's still not profitable because AWS, if you look at the scalability of how much they make quarter and year over year, their expansion, Netflix is built on AWS. Yeah. Disney Plus is built on AWS. Like I got to find the interview where it was the guy that when Bezos told him like, yeah, just go build AWS. That's how they launched all of their ideas because they had the revenue source of AWS. It's not sexy. Infrastructure as a service is not sexy, but it now allows Amazon to be the king of everything. Yeah. And now you were talking about, you want to be everything. they're the king of everything. They are. But you know, it's kind of, and that's why I'm always like, you can still show up, do whatever you want, as long as you care. Like if you want to make money or something, it's just people got to know who you are.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. Now you can do it definitely with personality, but I think it's very hard. And it works. I think it's just now you're competing. Now you have so many other people with their personalities, and some personalities are really toxic. Yeah. Ty Lopez, now listen, good on him for doing those things. He's killing it, whatever. He's polarizing and he does those things. But you've got to take the good with the bad if you're going to work on personality. Yeah. And I feel like personally, just for me, I can't do that. And this is just for me because I'm like, I don't want to do that type of showmanship to be able to have such a visceral reaction. Although I love talking about Kim Kardashian. I love talking about Kim Kardashian and Kanye West because I find that as much as people are like, oh, she's this, she's that, I'm like, yes.
She's a brand.
She wants that.
Yeah.
She is keeping up with the Kardashians is what, 15 years plus in it? I'm like, they have built controversy on getting there. It's good, but you've got to, are you ready to embrace it? Personally, my personality, I can't take it because it's just too much for me. But that's just me, so it's true.
Well, you do better under the stress of like, can I make this work, and kind of being in the grit, so to speak. And I feel like it's almost opposite with her because you have to be kind of the macro. Everyone's talking bad about you, kind of thing, or whatever. And what I will give her credit for is like her and Joe Rogan got bought out by Spotify for their shows, and that's crazy to think about. Spotify's gonna be a real big thing with podcasting too. That's just like, it's a whole nother tangent right there. And you're speaking of AWS. Before I move on to another question here, last time we talked, specialproject.io was a thing I was talking about because it's like a Netflix YouTube hybrid. Yep. It's built on AWS. And it's funny, so they were talking to me. We were chatting, me and the person, and they're like, I was like, is there any limitations to the platform or something like that? And he's like, not really, unless you can like somehow break AWS's servers because you have so many videos or something like that. And like, that's not going to happen. But it's like, that's what they were basically saying.
I love that. By the way, you got to hit me up with that. Yeah, how about I asked for it and they still haven't let me in?
I have a meeting with them next week. I'll mention that.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Let them know that I'm waiting.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to make them money. So
yes, exactly. And then on a different note, something I found when researching you is that on Udemy, and I believe like at Suno course or something like that, is like in particular you defined yourself as a solution architect. And anytime I ever took a career test growing up, or like even just as an adult, they always had that occupation as my top 3, solutions architect right there. And so what is it like in your view to work in that field?
Yeah. I mean, I love it. The thing is, I always find like 2 things. Either some people think I'm being too pretentious or bougie if I say like, I'm a solution architect. On the other hand, whenever I say like, I solve problems, they're like, that's not good enough. This isn't blah, blah. I'm like, okay, so this is the thing. I just love problem solving, and I love hearing people what they're stuck at. And I like the bridging the gap of technology and marketing. I think it's great. If you like hearing people and talking to them on, I don't talk to them daily. I talk to them monthly. But I like keeping up with them, seeing what's happening, and going from there. I think it's the best of both worlds. Now, some people hearing this, I told someone I was a solution architect. They're like, technically, I don't think that's what you are. I'm like, I don't care. Listen, you pay me money to solve your problems with technology and with marketing. Done.
Exactly.
So I mean, I love it. If you love solving problems, you love talking to people, and you love being in the moment, and things always changing. There's never 2 people the same. It's never 2 businesses, and every business changed, just like in COVID. I mean, all of our businesses have changed in the last 6 months. I'm all for it, man. I think you'd be good at it.
Thank you. From your experience with AppSumo and your hundreds of SaaS codes as you said you've used from LTD deals, what is a tool that you think would make the most difference or has made the most difference?
That's interesting. Probably Paperform.co. Paperform is a form builder, and it seems very easy, like Typeform. But the integrations that you're able to do, and the native integrations, I've built apps and MVPs for people off of this. I built different integrations where it would be text message marketing after they fill out forms, reminders, all those things. Paperform is probably one of my favorite teams. And just in my tech stack, I probably use Paperform top 3 than any other app that I've ever had from AppSumo. So yeah, Paperform is definitely up there. I have more inspirational ones that I really like the theories of them. I don't use them a lot, but I just because the content and everything like that. Podcast.co is one of them, just because Matchmaker and all the things. I love the team, so they're really cool. The third one, Viral Loops. Viral Loops is probably Viral Loops. I just loved it from years ago, just because they always had case studies. They had templates based on viral campaigns, and then they would tell you why and how you could reverse engineer it. I love that. So their content marketing was spot on.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go one more. SendFox. So SendFox is made by AppSumo. And so that crew, they're good. It's made for content creators. And throughout the years, I've worked with their team like a year and a half. And so they've made a lot of advancements. Like the things that I've always like, why don't you do this? They did it. So there's one, I always say there's one caveat. And they know this. They already know this. Do you want me to talk about the drawback of that one? Because I tell them, but I think it's a great product, except one reason. It's made for a product. It's made for content creators. Totally understand that. Get it. It's made for Noah, everything like that. Noah is making money not with that by his other business. If you want content creators to do this as a business, you need to have a component for them to advance and elevate from just virality and having subscribers to a clear path for them to integrate it with other platforms to make money. And that's the disconnect right now. So we'll see what they do. If I talk about it enough and people keep telling them, maybe they'll change it.
I saw SendFox and I wasn't impressed enough with it. I thought it looked really cool, and I was actually really needing an email marketing tool at the time. It's like, just like the social media management tools, I tried basically all the other ones I could afford or that had free options, and I couldn't find one that really worked for me until Automizy, actually, which is another LTD offer that I got. And then it is funny that you mentioned Viral Loops, because I feel like I kind of slept on that. I looked at it multiple times on Stack Social and AppSumo. I saw it on both, and I never got it, even though I was close to doing it. And so that leads me to my next question here too, is like, what tool do you think most people are sleeping on, quote unquote?
So let me, all time or what's in the store right now? That's what do you want me to do? All time, outgrow.co.
Okay.
Hands down. That pretty much makes all of my viral quizzes and everything like that. Outgrow. BuzzFeed used to use them. Like that's how like BuzzFeed used to get emails back in the day, like to do these things. Outgrow is pretty much one of my, people just don't know about that one. The other one, let me think about that. Yeah, most people sleep on Paperform. Every time I bought it, like people are like, oh, I saw it, but I never got them. Like, oh, Hello Tars. Back in the day, Hello Tars is a bot maker years ago. But what's interesting is they're meant for enterprise level. Okay. And the way they do their webhooks. So first of all, number one, instead of going from a normal page from Google Ads, you go to a chatbot. The way how sophisticated their chatbots are and the way that their intricacies are for that platform, it's second to none. They've been doing it for, I want to say Hello Tars, probably 2015 it was on AppSumo. It's been that long. They had an agency deal. And I think if you look at Hello Tars now, I think it's like $1,000 a month. Snatch that up for $97. Jeez. And that thing, I mean, if I really want to, if I was going into app development and I wanted to do it, like that one, they're great. Number two, their content marketing is hilarious. Their emails, they have all of their different bots speak with different voices during the email. And like some are doing like heists, some are like doing like it's hilarious the way they make their personalities with those chatbots. So just that stands out for me. But like Hello Tars. Yeah.
That's interesting. And so this kind of leads me to another question here. What is the purpose of automation then in business and or marketing, do you think?
To save you time or make you more money.
Okay. Do you see any downsides of it?
Yeah, I think sometimes the nuances can be glossed over. I mean, I could think about it in a perfect world, if I was going to quantify what people thought of the show or how people rate the show, if I really could find good reporters, I call them reporters. I'm sure there's better words, but basically I would do deep dive sessions with everyone that has bought a certain product and how many shows they've watched to build with me. I would do that all manually. Do I have the bandwidth and the time and all those things? No. I use automation to look at scores, and then I put them in different buckets and do all these things. I think missing the nuances of people's experiences with Build With Me. Sometimes I've heard people in the comments, they're like, oh, I've been watching and I did this with it. I'm like, you've never told me this ever. And they're just saying it live in the comments. And I'm like, oh, well, thank you. I'm happy. So I think you can miss certain things like that. But for the most part, it's one of those things I've got to look at the percentages. If I can save this much time or make this much money with automation, I'm going to miss something. I'm going to sacrifice something. Am I willing to sacrifice that? Does it outweigh it? And most of the time, automation severely outweighs, and it's better than me missing the nuances. Now, I do a manual audit later on to make sure that, you know, what happened and everything like that. So I use it not to replace people, but assist the team to get more efficient. So yeah, that's
accentuate the people. And I think that audit's a real important detail there too, because I'm getting a lot of analytics vibes from you too. You like to look at the analytics and see how things are working, and that's a weakness of mine actually, where I don't look at it as much. But I do think that's interesting too, because there is that nuance, and I kind of think of it as an engagement aspect too. So how can we not lose track of our personal touch with automation?
I think you just got to put it in its place. Realize that it's not you. It's not a person. Okay. Just because it said, because the thing is, I think it's the same way as I've seen some marketers just using automation the wrong way. Like they do A/B tests and they're like, oh, it means this because this is what it did. I'm like, well, you didn't look at the comparison between the headline and sub-headline. Did you look at the heat map? Did you look at how long people were on the page? Did you see what they were doing on that? It takes manual work to watch people's recordings, which I do. After I hit a certain threshold of how many users have been on this page, I look at my real-time heat map, but then how people look, what they don't click. And so I think it can assist, but if you rely heavily on it, you might say, oh, this page didn't convert. Okay, but what happened when they got on the page? You need someone to manually look at the page. Maybe they flipped through it, stayed on it 2 minutes, and they didn't understand it, and they left. They didn't even click. They just keep looking for information. Guess what? You should have put bulleted. You should have done headlines, something like that. So I still think there needs to be a human being able to make those judgment calls.
Well, and just like, for example, too, I was learning a lot about like the formatting of a website and how 17 font is like the best size for people to read and not too big, not too little. And whenever I make a new big change to my website, I get someone like physically to sit here at the desk and I'll watch them go through the site and just to see like, yeah, like you're saying there.
Yeah. And that's the same thing. I usually send it to someone that's older, and I send it to kids and I tell them to go watch this and tell me what you think. Or I'm on Zoom and I'm like, hey, go watch this. What do you think about this? And I record them and they're like, what does this mean? I was like, done. Or older ones usually are like, what? Like, so it's like this. I'm like, thank you, grandma. I'm putting that into. So you would never know, even if you just automate it and be like, go tell me if you like the site, because you can do that. The test, like it shows them for 5 minutes and people can rank your site. I still think real conversations when you're testing things out allows you to be enlightened ways that you just wouldn't have thought of.
And this is kind of a more random question here. What are some of your secret hobbies?
Oh, secret hobbies. Interesting. Well, I am a barbecue connoisseur, so I have been known to drive 3-4 hours to places just to get certain barbecue places. So I'm very invested in eating. So I go, every place that I go is pretty much just a write-off so we can eat somewhere. And so, in Austin, I know where I need to go. That's where I connect with a lot of founders. Usually if you're in a big city, I'm just like, okay, so what spot am I going to eat at? Or I've been to there, and that's how we connect. So I think, and barbecue is my specialty. So I think that might be the best secret hobby. I got to think about that. But yeah, I think, that would be interesting.
Up there. Well, and I don't know what episode it was, but you were on some podcast and you're talking about how he lived in Austin. It might have been Noah or something like that. But essentially
Oh, yeah.
speaking, Austin and Singapore are the two places I want to move to. So when I get to Austin, I'm going to ask you where I need to get some barbecue at.
Oh, I already know. Like, no, that's there's so many good ones. But yes, that's exactly right. And people love it. People love food. It's a great conversation, but everyone loves good food.
Right. Essentially speaking, many creators talk about creating 100 videos or podcasts before even worrying about quality. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah. And I would even say speed it up. Don't even worry about like, hey, I'm going to do 3 a week. I'm like, no. Can you do like 3 videos a day? Go do 3 videos a day. Because then you have a lot more to ascertain if it worked or not. Like it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. So I agree, 100 videos. And it's so funny. You were talking about Roberto Blake. I was just looking at his video. I liked his new video anyway. Well, that's a tangent, but I really liked how he was talking about the conversion rate of getting 100, getting 1,000 subscribers, how many views you need. And it was just a conversion based on like welcome mats. And I was like, you know what? It's so funny. He's like, most YouTubers will never explain it because they're not marketers. And I'm like, you are absolutely right. He's like, it's 1% to 2%. So you need 100,000 views approximately to get 1,000 subscribers. Doesn't matter what videos you make, what kind of videos. You need to see which one pops. But the average is 100,000 to 200,000, views for your channel will get you 100 subscribers. I was like, that makes perfect sense.
You know what's interesting is that I spent a lot of time on TikTok, and that ratio almost sounds familiar for there too. I have around, mind you, my phone actually died like last week. I don't actually have a phone right now, so I can't even check my TikTok right now, which sucks. I actually have a new phone on the way. And it's just interesting because I have around 35,000 views, I believe. And I have 2,800 followers, which is the most I have on any platform. But I've been on there for 2 years and I've made over 900 videos on that platform. And yet I have not made that much progress lately. And I'm wondering why. I'm like, well, I'm a little bit less in my views, but yeah, it's kind of that same ratio there too. I'm wondering how that might carry on.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. And I was like, I never really thought. I looked at mine and I was like, he's like, look at the big channels, look at the conversion rate, and I was like, and I use TubeBuddy. Shout out to TubeBuddy. They don't pay me, but still, it's true. And I looked at my friends who was popped. I'm like, I just had this Matrix moment. I was just like, he's right. Like I never really thought about it. So his is like 100 videos. I'm just like, makes sense. 100,000 views, like just make as many to do it. And those ratios, I'm hitting right at that it jumped. My percentages are a lot different now, but I was like, yes, that is exactly right. 1% to 2%. It's totally right. Totally right. And I was like, yeah, anyway, so I love that.
It's like the Matrix moment where I was like, I know YouTube.
Exactly. I'm telling you, and that's the thing. And honestly, there's tons of other creators. I actually paid for a YouTube coach years ago. And I remember, and actually he's on the YouTube creator studio now, like that does the videos. It's crazy. And, I remember I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do YouTube and, a couple other things. He's like, bro, if you're not fully into YouTube, don't start on YouTube. And I was like, all right, well, I'm not starting on YouTube then. And I just didn't do anything for like 4 years. But he's dead serious. And I always, and I was a little bit, I was like, blah, like you don't know, blah, 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 blah. But he's exactly right. For YouTube, it's a job. You have to look at your analytics. You have to understand. And one of the biggest things, which I love, it was one of Blake's other videos, which I just makes so much sense. He's like, listen, it's great that you're making, you got to like shotgun approach, like spray, whatever. But he's like, listen, when people start subscribing to a certain video, start making videos that the ones that they subscribe to. And I've always been like, nah, I gotta do this. I gotta do that. No. You want to see, if you want to pop, that's what it is. Now, again, this is different. If you want your channel to be known from something, there's a whole other layering effect, whatever. But you already know this. Being on YouTube, the people decide what they want to see from you. One last thing, I'll tell a story. My wife was looking at how to cut hair because she has to cut my hair because I wasn't leaving the house, right? And so this one kid, I was looking at his views. He has 14,000 subscribers, and he's cutting hair, drop shipping, crypto curtain, like blah 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 blah, and Instagram followers, right? It's like I was talking to my wife. I was like, why is he doing this? And in the comments, people are like, why are you doing this? In his stories, he's like, I messed up my channel. I'm starting from scratch. And I was telling my wife, I was like, I've got to message him. I'm like, listen, we've got to find out, are you trying to make money? Like, because if you're trying to make money, you're not doing anything wrong with like barber, we just need an affiliate model. We need to, so like, this is what I'm saying. He wants to be like, I'm an influencer or I'm entrepreneur. I'm doing this. I'm like, yes, I understand. But let me tell you something, man. You can be an entrepreneur being a barber entrepreneur. You can do this being this type. This is what people are saying they want from you. Go do those things. And I find that in YouTube, and I've been guilty. I was like, I'm going to do news. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be talking about this kind of thing. No, my audience cares about very specific things. Go do that, and you're going to get more subscribers, and you're going to accelerate. But you've got to be in the numbers. You've got to be in the numbers to look at what's working. And I wasn't. I had a video that was talking about live streaming, had 11,000 views. I just never looked at it. I never looked at it. I was just off. So you just got to be in your numbers, not obsessive, but it will allow you to understand where to go and capitalize.
Bigger picture. And this kind of goes back to that whole niche thing too. It's like, I feel like if I start growing and then someone finds me for some kind of topic that I did down the line, some kind of sub niche that I talked about, and that's what they want to see more of. And that's what I start growing because of, and I don't want to create content on that. I don't have to, obviously, but like, I don't know. I feel like I'm going to be conflicted on that. And I'm already conflicted on something that's imaginary.
See, but that's the whole thing. I'm like, if you're worried about that, just keep doing it. That, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't worry about it. If that's, you're making, those are imaginary problems. We'll worry about that when you're popping and you're at 20,000. You're like, oh man, I got to decide. You never know. One of the guys that I was, same videographer. So he's done tons of great videos, tons of great content. He did a day in the life blog, me and AJ Vaynerchuk and all this stuff, right? His first video that hit 100,000, he did a huge documentary about this pimp named Magic Don Juan in Chicago, but he had something that was a minute long, and it was pimps arguing outside of a club. He put on his channel that popped with 100,000. Then his other videos, and we're like, what? Like, it was so random. It was just a bloopers thing. And it was these two pimps, real pimps, were just young. One pimp from Russia, one pimp from Chicago. And they were talking about pimping. And that's the one that broke the there's no way you can predict that.
So actually, to counteract that just a little bit, essentially speaking, talk about the numbers. I took Sean Cannell's Think Media's course, Viral Ranking Academy.
Oh, yeah.
Which talks about, like, how can you rank it using, like, TubeBuddy or vidIQ, whichever one you're using. And that's cool because then you can, like you said, you're looking at the numbers, you see what can work, blah, blah, blah. That's the technical aspect. But then there's also virality, where you can't really control virality, really. But there is this thing called Jump Cut Academy, which I don't agree with the pricing structure. But they had like this free mini course of 4 videos that talked about the virality, the traits of virality is what it was. And it's like, make someone feel something like incite emotion, being able to flip the script, so to speak, like challenge their assumptions. That's what it was. And it's like those kind of neat little things. Like, people probably didn't necessarily know what these pimps are going to be talking about. So it was just so random to them. They're like, wow, this is fascinating, something like that. It's like so out of my circle that it caused them to be like, I need to share this. And that's probably why it went viral. So it made them feel something.
Yeah. And see, and that's the thing. And once again, there's someone, Amy Hepton, who, she's awesome. Paid search magic. She's one of the best in the business. Oh my God. She's just, if you're trying to do PPC, like on Google, she's just amazing. But she was always talking about that. It's a mixture of science and art. When you're trying to do those things, and one other thing, like you were saying, viral, I always like to distinguish my friend that's doing this on his YouTube channel. I've made more than 20 times, maybe 50 times more money off of my YouTube channel than his. I have approaching 1,000. He's 40,000 something now. The thing is, our channels, I'm saying content different, all these things, positioning in what you want to be known for, and the gotcha moment at the end of the video. What are you doing it for? I'm on YouTube to direct them to sign up to things, to get into my funnel, whatever. It's great if I had another number, or if I'm going to get into 5,000, 10,000, whatever, it would be great.
Yeah.
If I stall out and I'm smaller, as long as I'm making money and there's a clear path of why they're on my YouTube channel, I'm totally fine. Education for them to level up their life. They never have to pay me again. Yeah. But if they talk about it, they have good vibes, whatever, I know it's going to pay me back later on. But I find that a lot of people, and we've worked with, I'm not sure, do you know what, like, mom react videos? Have you seen those or anything like that?
No.
This one's like, you might have seen like Grandma React, or it's basically
that
old
React
people.
Channel?
Yeah, it's a full React. So there's this one, the first mom React videos from Mama Cuff, from the Cuff Boys on YouTube. They got like 2.8 whatever. They live in about an hour away from us, all those things. And the thing is, these channels have millions of views, and it's them. I'm not just calling them out. I'm saying you would be surprised. So many times people are like, if I have X amount on this channel, I'm going to be making this much. It's not the truth. It's not the truth. And so I'm always curbing. I'm always like, virality is cool to show, reverse engineer how you got there. And but that's me explaining so I can make more money off someone so they know what virality is. But always understand the purpose. Are you doing this to have authority in your space and you need the right people to see it, or you need people to enter your funnel to make a certain amount of money? That's the whole thing you need to worry about on YouTube. If not, and this happens on Instagram all the time, people get caught up on vanity metrics and they go crazy on the wrong things. And the platforms reward vanity metrics. They don't reward money. If you have a blue check, doesn't mean that you're making money. Yeah. If you have these hundreds of thousands, millions of views, that doesn't make sure you're on. You make money on YouTube. It's how you're using it and how you're positioned, what you're ranking for, all of these things that I'm interested to make people have the lifestyle that they want.
Well, and it's kind of interesting because like on Instagram, for example, I am going after the follower metric. I want to get to that 10K, but specifically so I can get the new features, such as like swipe up in stories or Instagram.
Why don't you just buy an account?
I don't know. I like having.
Because I'm saying, if you want the features, I just bought an account from Serbia. I was just like, okay, I need 10K because I need to do a swipe up. I need an account that's verified so I can talk to other people that are verified. I'm not saying that's all that it is, but I always try to transactionally, like, do you want to have, is it only about those things? Is it about building out that following? Now, the other thing is too, in tech or whatever platform, you're in fitness and you're in other things and branding too, but does your target audience mess with you on that platform?
Yeah. Well,
do they convert?
Well, I don't have anything to convert to at this point.
Yeah.
So that's probably the first step right there.
Yeah. What's the people, who are you going after? Who are you going to be working with? Is it people, are you doing consulting or courses, or what are you doing?
I want to start doing courses and books and then eventually speaking down the line. And that's what I'm kind of working towards right now. And right now I've been trying to define what people can understand. And I've been just trying to build the baseline. Even though I've been doing this for years, it's kind of like been evolving enough to where I'm like, okay, I identify this. Just recently, I changed the whole phase from being self-education to being this personal poly-innovation system, because it includes self-education, just a little bit bigger picture, so to speak. And so that's what I'm going to be focusing on now. And in fact, I've been changing my website to make it more geared towards that, more funnelized than that.
Gotcha. Okay, that sounds good. And where do they get their education and everything? Are they on Instagram? Or are they on YouTube? Or where are they at to get the education?
I try to be omni-channel for the most part, but
where does your audience go for that information?
What do you like, from me or in general?
In general, like, is there certain people on Instagram are they pinning it? Is people inspirational? Is it IGTV and certain people? Is it like, I think about it just like, I never thought TikTok was for, what's the word? There was one person that they used to do 3D modeling, but they have a channel where it's just like this classical music and it's them 3D modeling in TikToks. And I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. Yeah. And it stands out, but they're then giving a different call to action to get them paid. So I was wondering, is it the people that are signing up, do they follow influencers that follow the same kind of thought pattern as you on Instagram, and they're looking for personalities, looking for their daily life? Why are they on the platform? Who do they follow?
That is an interesting question. For the most part, I've been trying to associate myself with people who are polymathic and trying to get those entrepreneurs and people who are interdisciplinary. Those are kind of the followers of those channels are the ones I've been targeting, so to speak.
But are they on Instagram?
Yeah, they're on Instagram. It seems like, actually, what's interesting is that I've been looking at the keywords of like polymath or jack of all trades, and it's very interesting to see, like, on YouTube, anybody who makes that, there's usually they're one-offs. They don't do much content on it. But on Instagram, there's actually a lot more consistency to it. So there's one called Young Polymaths, where they make posts based around like Leonardo da Vinci or Richard Feynman at their young age. And they're consistent on there. He's consistent on Medium as well, but that's the only two platforms he's really on. There's another one, it's called Get Polymath, and it's like a planner that you can use to organize your life. Really cool planner. And I talked to him. He's one of my guests on the show. And actually, both of them are. And like he only really uses Instagram. So it's interesting how a lot of my audience, or people that I think are my audience at this point, are on Instagram, maybe TikTok too for the most part. But
and you're talking to them and they're on Instagram. Are they making money on those platforms?
The Get Polymath guy is, I think. But some of the other ones, because I don't know how to really kind of go about that. Maybe we can talk more about it after we finish recording here. But
sorry about this, but I'm interested. I'm like, because that's where I'm like, listen, I'm following the money. Like, I hate to be like this, but I'm just like, okay, they're there, but like, have they figured it out? Because there's tons of people on platforms. They're like, oh yeah, they're great. I'm like, but how much money you're making? They're like, bro, I'm not making anything. I'm like, oh, okay. And then you go up. I'm not saying that they're not, but that's, I'm always thinking about how are they getting people in the funnel? What are they doing? Is it so? We'll talk about this afterwards. No problem.
Yeah, for sure. And so, what kind of be the next phase for you going on? So you have like a bunch of courses at Brand Factory. Is there anything else special coming up in your personal or company brands?
That's pretty interesting. So there's a new project. Have you heard of something like Loot Crate? Have you ever heard of that?
So like the subscription box.
Yeah. So I was thinking about doing a digital subscription box for MVBs, and just straight up like.
Okay, you got my attention now. Let's go.
So a lot of people watch the show and they're like, oh, I would love to do Netflix or create the next Netflix or create the next Uber or something like, or I want to create a marketplace. It's like, well, just like how you could get something in the mail, this would be a digital box set, and it would take you for this month. I'm going to teach you how to not only just hear about this trend, but execute and launch your business in a month. And it's a subscription box. And every month, there's going to be one expert that has been in the field that they've launched something like that. And so what I see is so many times people see like the Hustle or Morning Brew or something. They hear all this curated information. They don't know how to take action. So this would be a monthly subscription service where it would be a breakdown of a build and execute and see if you can make money and learn how to scale quickly. And that's what it would be. And the reason it would, I think it's almost like there's a way, startups, like think about Instagram, think about anything like this. When you started the project, or even Twitch, when you started the project, it looked very different than at the end product when you made money. So this is showing you different ways. There's an expression called focus on the handle, not the tool. And this is the handle. As long as you know how to hold the tool or what you're trying to do, that's the goal of these monthly boxes. It might be a micro marketplace 1 month, how to build an app. It's cross-pollination that's going to allow you to iterate on your ideas for allowing you to be successful. And what I see is most of the time people, it's not the information right now. People have YouTube. People can tell you tons of things. It's accountability and execution. Yeah. And that's what these these MVB builds will be. It's literally accountability and execution. Get it done, because we're only supporting you for 1 month to see what you can do by the end of the month. Then we're moving on. And so that's what I'm working on.
Yeah. And that sounds interesting, because that's literally the two things I need: more execution, more accountability. And honestly, income too, because I do personal training and swimming, but that's the only income I'm doing. And especially during this time, it's like, it's kind of like, my clients went out of town a couple of weeks there, and I was completely out of income there. It's like, the hell, like I can't do much about that.
Yep, exactly right. And yeah, go ahead. What were you going to say though?
I do have a question though. Like, what if someone just decides like, hey, this worked for me, I'm done now? Where do you see that? Because I feel like people might shut off quickly if they find one that works or don't like it.
Yeah. So you're saying on the ones that it does work or doesn't, or answer both?
Both, I think.
Yeah. So the whole thing is, if it works, you still need other people to constantly critique and see how you can improve. So that's where the community aspect comes in. So they're going to be on it for the long haul, because now they have a built-in community that is constantly launching quickly. So it brings in that motivation. So that's the first thing, if it does work. If it doesn't work, that's actually why it's so good to have a subscription, or again, I'm still playing with it. You can decide to do a subscription, or you can just do 1 month. You can jump in. Now, if you do 1 month at a time, it's more expensive than if you're there monthly. But the thing is, if you are failing and you're saying, well, I wanted to do a marketplace, it didn't work. Yeah, because it might not be the format it might be your idea is right. The format might be off. So the next month, we're going to be trying something else. It's this format. You can still bring your same idea from last month into this month. Let's roll it again. But it's that constant iteration, kind of like we were talking about the views. You just got to try it to see what's working. And so that's why, again, we're playing around with it. But that's what we're going to be trying. We're going to be doing the MVP this week.
I love that. And it's kind of actually what I was doing with the PolyInnovator website, for example, too. I was iterating. I tried different themes. I had one that was a social network, had one that was a learning management system. Now it's more just a generic one I made, but iterations just like that, trying to see what works. And if it doesn't work, move on, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. And then once a month we do a workshop and everyone can just be on a Zoom call. It's like, hey, what's everyone working on? Of course you submit it. We answer questions. We have an expert. And then to add virality, what we're going to do is if we get Noah or someone that they get, whoever gets to enter, and this part is free. It'll be like, that way it goes viral on social, but you can enter to win to get a hot seat or a breakdown of your business by one of these people. Ooh, so even if you buy it or not, you got to share it. You got to do all this stuff to enter to win.
Yeah. The viral
and then,
loop.
Exactly right. And then that one, guess what? The founder gets to talk to them. We can do it asynchronous. We can do it in real time. It doesn't matter depending on their schedule. And then we just rinse and repeat. That's content because now they're talking to someone in the audience. We use that for the next thing. And that's the plan. So we're going to start with possibly like building an MVP. And then we're going to see what works. Like 1 month building a live streaming, like building a streaming service, or building basically a video on demand service, things like that for a niche, and just kind of release one at a time and see what people think. And we'll probably limit it like by spots and by price, right? So if it's going to be the first 15 in the door, $49. Next one, when that closes, boom, the price jumps up $100, and just go that way. And go like that.
That sounds good. And so where can people find you online?
Yeah, so they can find me on 2 different places. They can find me at brandfactoryinc.com, and you can also email me if you would like. It's doc@brandfactoryinc.com. Or if you want to see all the shows and what we were talking about in the builds, you can go to the buildwithmeshow.com, and there you'll find our beautiful Notion page and all the links to all the YouTube episodes and all that kind of stuff.
I'll make sure I have links in the description here. I even have some of the stuff you mentioned there, like paper form. I took some notes for that. And then on top of that, what could be the call to action for our audience today? Besides obviously checking you out.
Yeah, I mean, what I would do is it depends on where you want me to point them. I have a couple different things. One, I have a 3-path to success test, which is, imagine it's like a Myers-Briggs test for business. So it tells you how you can show up online to relate to your audience into 3 different avenues. So that's pretty popular. The other one is if you're trying to think of a business idea, we also have a quiz how you can build your next project, your next side hustle quickly. And so it's a quiz that you can take to see what you need to create for your next side hustle.
Let's say both. All right, perfect. Yeah. Cool. And so once again, this is Dustin Miller, PolyInnovator, and this was Doc Williams on the Polymath Polycast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.